Texas Math Mundo audience. Today we have the 1983 and 1984 state champion in number sense from Anson High School, Mr. Kevin Ansley. He's sure to provide a unique and wonderful perspective for our show. I really enjoy that. Mr. Kevin Anson, state champion 83 and 84, right ahead. Let me take a moment and pause and remind you that if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell. It helps me out quite a bit. Also, smash that like button and make a comment below. Mr. Kevin Anson, right up. Ansley, Mr. Kevin Ansley, right up. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Texas Math Mundo audience, we have with us today the 1983 and 1984 UIL state champion in number sense from Anson High School, a proud Tiger, Mr. Kevin Ansley. Welcome, Mr. Kevin Ansley.
Thank you. I appreciate you having us all.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. It should be noted that you also qualified for state in number sense in 1981 and in calculator applications in 1984. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So you got a very interesting perspective to share with the audience. I'm so excited to have you here. So let's start off with how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I think I probably do have a little bit different perspective from some of the people that I've seen you interview. A lot of them are fairly recent, and mine goes back as far as qualifying 40 years. So, I'm doing good. I'm definitely been in a career for a long time, and I'm probably the first one you've interviewed potentially that has a grandchild. So, I'm doing good, staying healthy, and just continue to try to make a difference in the people I touch.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know what you bring? You bring wisdom, you bring life experience, you bring perspective to the table, and I'm very interested in tapping into that.
Okay.
So what do you do for a living? You got like a busy office behind you. What are you doing for work nowadays?
Yeah, I'm currently living in Amarillo, Texas. Whoops, that's one off.
Yeah.
Hold on.
No problem.
That's one off. I'm currently living in Amarillo, Texas. I've been here for about 20 years. I work for a communications company. We are basically an alternative to AT&T and Suddenlink.
Okay.
We do what they do, only we do it better, faster, cheaper, with better service. So.
Oh, I believe that. What's the name of the company again?
The name of the company is Pathways Communications.
Okay, cool, great. I believe everything that. So when you're not engaged in work, and I'm sure that takes a lot of your time, but when you're not engaged in work, what are your hobbies and interests? How do you have fun?
I like camping. I've always been kind of an avid camper. Growing up in West Texas, there's a lot of opportunity to do that, and I picked it up again as my kids were getting older in high school. Had a very good friend of mine. We started meeting a time or two a year and going camping. And then my wife got interested in it. So we bought a camper, and we've recently picked that up and been trying to do that. And then as I mentioned, I've got a 3-month-old grandson. So generally speaking, and they live. My daughter and her husband live in Amarillo as well. So whenever we get some free time, we like to spend it with him as well. It's grandchildren are. The joke is, if I'd known how much fun they were, I would have had them first. And I understand it now. So.
Wow, wow. So, hey, camping sounds like a lot of fun. Enjoying the family sounds like a lot of fun. So it seems like on that off time, you really know how to, suck the marrow out of life.
I try.
All right, all right. So let me tell you. So 1983, 1984, state champion number sense. Wow. So where are you from, born and raised, and your cultural heritage?
I was born and raised in West Texas. I've spent most of my life here, outside of a couple of years living in or working in Austin. But I was born in Knox City, Texas, very small community. And my dad was a teacher. My mom was initially a homemaker. As I got a little bit older, we moved to Anson whenever I was in 3rd grade, and then my mom went to work at that point. And so definitely small town roots. I never lived anywhere bigger than 2,700 people until I went to college. So
really, wow. But there's something I bet you are very beautiful about small town living.
There really is. One thing about it, everybody and everybody knows you. That's both a good and a bad thing. But I wouldn't trade it for a thing.
Oh, I feel you. And I bet you that West Texas sky is pretty beautiful, I hear.
It is. And I think I've always tried to have a very strong work ethic. I got that from my parents, but West Texas kind of gives you that. Whenever you want something done, you kind of have to roll up your sleeves and make it happen.
Oh,
so
I feel you. It molds you. That's great.
It does.
Wow. So when did you realize that you had a talent for mathematics?
I was a good student growing up in all the subjects. I had in junior high, I had a math teacher that took me aside and said, I think you ought to try this event. And I tried it, and I think I practiced a day or two before the district meet. Went into the district meet, obviously bombed it because I didn't know what to do or how to do it or the technique or anything. And then the next year, as a 8th grader, we spent probably 2 weeks on it, and because I had 2 weeks and 2 days of training at that point, I won district. And so she recommended me to the high school math teacher and number sense coach, and he was very interested in it, particularly at that time. He had a student that had qualified a year or two before for state, very good student, and so he was really pumped up at that time. So
okay. So can you repeat the name of that middle school teacher and that high school teacher for me?
Sure. The middle school teacher's name was Shirley Jackson.
Okay.
And the high school teacher was Mike Brown.
Okay. Wow. So they had a integral part, a critical part in developing you that led to you to state eventually.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Wow. So I was going to ask, and maybe they're part of the answer, who inspired you and who shaped your value system?
Definitely my dad.
Oh.
He was a great role model for me. Taught me, the value of education. He was a career educator. Spent about 35 years in various roles. And as I mentioned, Mike Brown, he was. I probably had 3 adult men in my life who really shaped me. My dad, my best friend's dad, and Mr. Brown, and they all had, I think, a strong hand, and all helped guide me to hopefully making good decisions most of the time. And but yeah, my dad was definitely, he set the bar very high for me in a lot of ways. So.
Wow, that's really powerful. Wow. I want to talk about UIL, the early '80s, and Anson High School. So
Okay.
describe Anson in the early 80s. Describe Anson High School in the early 80s.
Okay. Well, it was a a small West Texas town. Um, Looking back on it, I wouldn't change a thing. It was the kind of place where literally you would not find it in today's culture. And the reason I say that is because it was the type of place where you could drive your vehicle to school and leave your car unlocked, leave the windows down, not worry about anything getting stolen. Again, talking about the early 80s, being in West Texas, there were a lot of gun racks and rifles and pistols, and nobody ever thought about breaking into the trucks or stealing those or doing any kind of harm. So, but as a group, we had a really strong work ethic, I think, and it was just a really the entire high school was less than 240 students. So
Wow.
you knew people and you knew them very well. So
Wow, wow. I love the picture that you paint of West Texas in the early 80s and Anson High School. That's a great picture, man.
it was the kind of place where you could turn your kids out early in the morning, have them come home late in the day, and never worry about really where they were or what they were doing. So.
And I think you're particularly right that I don't know if we'll ever capture that kind of time anymore. The environment, the time, very special, very special.
It was
Wow.
a great time to grow up.
Wow, that's great. So, do you remember your teammates? I know you mentioned your coaches already. Do you want to do a shout out to any of your teammates? Did you have teammates, or were you like a lone wolf in those days?
As I mentioned, Mr. Brown was very motivated, and he was trying to build a team. We did have a team. One person in particular, Burl Hagler. He was a couple of years older than me, and he graduated valedictorian a couple of years before I graduated. My best friend was actually on the team, Kerry Willis, and I'm trying to think. We had some others that kind of came and went, but those were a couple that were there through most of the time period. Grinding it out, taking tests, kind of doing the work.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about your practice regiment and your personal study habits in those days that led to your eventual state championship.
So the study habits, as I mentioned a couple of times before, Mr. Brown was very motivated at that particular time, and he brought me in. We started working in my freshman year, and taught me some tricks. I really didn't have obviously the math background for a number of sense at that point, particularly as you think about flipping to the second page of the test. So he would, and some of the things he taught me during that time period, because I just didn't have, geometry or trig or whatever it may be, he would say, okay, when you see this, do this. We'll get to it later. We'll get to it your sophomore year, your junior year, your senior year. When you see this, do this. So I would.
I know how it is. I have an office the same way. You don't move, and then the lights turn off. I know.
Yeah. So he would kind of do that. He spent a lot of time with me. Because he spent all that time, and we got the base foundation laid. I got really good at page one, which obviously accumulate a lot of points in
Yes.
page one. And then as we progressed, particularly in my junior and senior year, my sophomore year, I kind of I thought I was going to be good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't put in the work necessarily that year that was required. And I didn't advance past regional that year. So, but it was a learning point, and I realized I've got to work harder. So it motivated me for my junior year. Again, we spent a lot of time. And the interesting thing, I think, up until district of my junior year, I had never won a number sense meet in high school. I had several seconds and thirds, but top 6 places and stuff, but I'd never won one. Once I won that meet, I never lost again. And
Really?
my senior year in particular, we spent a lot of time. We had joined Texas Math and Science Coaches Association.
Yes.
Lots of tests. I had taken every test that the UIL had put out at that point, and every meet we went to. I won't say it was easy, but when you're prepared, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's great. And did you all go to a lot of tournaments?
We did. my senior year, outside of the district, regional, and state, we probably went to 6 or 8 different tournaments.
So I'm very curious here because you did qualify for state in calculator. And
I did.
So, I think the first year of calculator might have been 1981. Before that, it was a slide rule. Did you ever touch a slide rule?
I did not.
You're too young for that. You know what I'm saying?
I am.
But it was close.
It was.
Do you remember the calculator you used in those days?
I don't. I know it was a Texas Instruments calculator, but I do not remember it. And I haven't touched a calculator in I don't know how long. So.
Yeah, we still use the tables in the back of the book back in those days too.
Right.
I do remember. So what is the most memorable moment or moments of those years?
I think the obvious answer is winning state. It was an achievement that I'll never forget. But my senior year, I kind of had a little bit different set of goals because I had won state. I did not necessarily, in Anson, there were 5 divisions at that time, 1A through 5A. Anson was 2A. My goal wasn't necessarily to win 2A. My goal was to try and have the top score at the state meet.
Oh, great goal.
And I didn't accomplish that. But the meet that really stands out to me is regional of that year. And it's been forever since I've seen a test solved, so I don't know the format anymore. But it used to be the district meet was kind of it was very, the test was what I would call moderate. It wasn't hard and it wasn't easy. Okay. It tested you, but it was very thorough and the regional meet was always up to that point. The previous probably 10 years it was hard. It was a grind. It was going to be tough. Yeah. And then the state meet was a little bit easier. Well, that particular year, district was, the same moderate type test. The regional meet turned out to be easy, and of course you don't know it whenever you flip the page and you're looking at it. So I was pretty much on task on page 1, about 5 minutes through, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got time to finish this, and I just blitzed through the second page, and I finished in 8 minutes. And that was the longest 2 minutes because I was thinking everybody's catching up.
Yeah.
I have no more questions left to do, and everyone else is catching up. So.
Well, I bet you. I was like, "Come on, finish! Time to go off! Time!" I bet you were really.
I really was doing that. I had gotten lost in my head on the time, and it just it was kind of nerve-wracking. That was the only nerve-wracking moment I had, but it was a great test. I think I missed 5 questions on it, and just really blitzed right through it. So
fascinating. That's an interesting story. That's fascinating. So, a state champion. You consider the vast state of Texas. How does that feel to be a state champion? How does that feel?
As I said, I was proud of it. I am proud of it. But in a lot of ways, I was an athlete growing up. I played, football, baseball, little track, little basketball. I think in a lot of ways, those are great events. I loved them. I loved competing, but at the same time, only a few people in every class 2A play football or play basketball or whatever it might be. Everybody takes math. So I held that to be a very big achievement. I think at that time there were about 216 Class 2A schools. I don't know how many are in that division anymore, but to be considered the best at something in that, I was very proud of. And you were asking about teammates earlier. Kerry Willis, who was in my graduating class, we pushed each other a lot. It was a small graduating class, so there was about 47 of us, but we graduated valedictorian and salutatorian. So
Oh, wow.
we pushed ourselves in every subject. So
Very beautiful. Wow, that's interesting.
I probably couldn't have done it without him behind me. He made me work.
Oh, wow, that's great. You know, when competition drives us to excel, everybody wins.
Right.
I really believe that. That's what's beautiful about UIL.
And I think one of the things that I took from competing in athletics, I was never going to be an Olympic athlete or a professional athlete or anything like that. But I did learn how to compete. I learned how to push myself. I learned how to go farther than I thought I could go.
Great lessons. Great lessons. Wow. So, where do you keep those gold medals?
You sent me this interview last weekend. I'm not sure where they are anymore. There was a period of time I was very proud of them. And my dad had built a trophy case for them, but I think they're in the drawer somewhere, possibly in the garage. I'm not really sure, but
here's the deal: you got to find them, frame them, and then that little grandson of yours, you can always brag to him. Boy, hey, Grandpa was state champion.
Right. Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. My youngest daughter, she is, and both my daughters are teachers now. So,
Okay.
but my youngest daughter is 24. She's a theater teacher. But when she was in high school at Canyon Randall High School, she was on the UIL theater team, and they actually won state.
Oh, wow.
So, it's kind of it was a unique perspective. I was very proud of her and for her.
Absolutely, because that takes a lot of work. You're going to reach that level. It takes work, man. And it's nice when hard work pays off. It's nice.
It is, and she worked really hard for that. So I knew the nights, the weekends, the early mornings. She was putting in the time. So.
Wow. So we have 2 generations of state champions there.
Right.
Wow, that's great. So do you ever travel back to Anson, or is that part of your distant past?
After college, I moved to Austin for a couple of years, worked there, but they needed help at the hospital, so I actually lived back in Anson from about 1991 to 1996, working at the hospital there.
Okay.
But all my family has moved at this point. I have not been back to there in probably about 6 or 7 years. So,
I got you.
Great place to be from. I still keep up with people from there. With today's social media, we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So where did you go to college? And I see those fancy diplomas behind your shoulder there. What kind of degrees did you earn?
I went to Angelo State University in San Angelo. I got a bachelor's degree in business administration, majored in management, minored in marketing, and then I got a master's degree in business management. So.
And do you feel your UIL experience helped you in college or your career path at all?
I do. I think one of the things, as you well know, because of all the practice tests and everything, a lot of people will get anxiety if you say the word test. Well, you say the word test, and I'm not fazed by it at all, even to this day. It's I've taken a lot of tests over the years, so I think that definitely helped. And then, of course, the other thing, I really worked at it. Mr. Brown helped me with developing a work ethic and kind of knowing how to study. It assisted me in college, no doubt. He gave me some of the best. I mentioned he was one of my very influential males. He told me going in, he said, treat it like a job. If you'll work at it from 8 to 5, you'll have your nights and weekends free, and you can do kind of whatever you want to do.
Wow.
And he was right.
Good perspective, an interesting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, what do you value the most about that UIL journey now that you look back on it?
Really, like I said, I really just liked competing, and Um, the meets were, I loved going to the meets, particularly once I um, um, gained a little confidence in what I was doing. I think, and just knowing that I can do this, and it kind of permeates into other areas of life where you're faced with a challenge on something. And, I definitely, I don't back down from any challenges, and I definitely, that has continued into my adult life. I guess I would say that.
Yeah, wow. Some good lessons, right? Some nice things
Exactly.
to value.
Exactly.
So I consider this a big question because you have perspective. You've lived a life. There's some distance between now and 1980 in the early 80s. A lot of young students will come across this interview, and I hope this interview is out for decades or for a long time. What advice would you give for any youngster that comes across this interview and is listening to you, state champion?
I guess the big thing would be find something you're passionate about, and really dive into it. Don't be afraid to work hard. It's okay to outwork other people. I've kind of lived my whole life that way. I'm not afraid to get dirty, to work hard, and I think that's the biggest thing that I kind of see that I would like for people to know. There was a certain amount of math came easy to me, but there was a whole lot of working hard to make it easy after that.
Yeah, I feel you. And you molded by that West Texas sun over there, molded by West Texas.
Right.
But I was going to say, we talked about how special the early 80s was and a special time that we don't know if we can ever recapture that. But certain things stay true from generation to generation to generation, even to today. Like that work ethic, like the need to apply yourself. That doesn't change over the decades and over time.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think my kids have learned that from me. I've certainly tried to teach them that, and I'm certainly hopeful my grandson will inherit some of those qualities as well.
Yes, absolutely. Because we live like in this instant gratification society,
right.
But some things don't change. You still got to work.
Right.
I feel you on that one. Right. So, what does the future hold for Mr. Kevin Ansley, state champion?
Truthfully, I don't see myself doing anything but what I'm doing for the next several years. I've been at Pathways Communications for a little over 20 years now. I foresee that continuing. Again, my wife and I love the camping, and I really don't see a lot of changes in the near future. I tell you one of the things, and I'm in my mid 50s now, so I see people retire too early, and I think one of the things that I've seen that's been important is you've got to have a reason to get up every day, and that reason may be you may be volunteering at your church, you may be at the library, at the food bank, whatever it may be, but everyone needs a reason to get up and start their day and really get going. So I don't anticipate doing anything different for a long period of time.
I do appreciate that perspective, what you said. You stop moving and nature will get rid of you. You stop moving, nature will get rid of you.
If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
There you go. Seriously. Wow, that's very interesting. Oh, wow. And of course, watching that grandson grow up will be so enjoyable.
He puts a smile on my face. I can have a terrible day. I'll see him, and it's pretty incredible.
Hey, and they give the greatest hugs at 3 years old. At 3 years old, they got the biggest hugs.
You've got a 3-year-old, I take it.
So, Mr. Kevin Ansley, any parting words or final thoughts as we conclude this interview?
For the students who may see this coming forward, again, just find your passion, work hard. Don't be afraid to work hard. Don't be afraid to compete. And don't be afraid to fail. I mentioned I didn't qualify for state my sophomore year. That drove me. that made me who I am. That kind of galvanized me. And it's okay to try and fail. That's fine. Life is all about trying things. So I guess I would say to you, I appreciate what you're trying to do to promote the event. I felt for a long time, academics gets all the accolades and all the budget, and I just appreciate what you're trying to do to raise awareness and and help motivate young people. There's nothing greater that you can really do in life.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I've really enjoyed this conversation, man. I really feel the West Texas in you. I really love it. I like your storytelling. I love your storytelling. I think it's great. Mr. Ansley, I'm in Houston. You got my phone number now. If you ever find yourself in these parts, give me a call. We'll go have a taco, chit chat over lunch. I really enjoy talking to you. You have a very good way about you. And I really hope that that maybe our paths will cross, man.
That sounds good. I look forward to it.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, absolutely. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And farewell. Farewell.
All right. Thank you.
Wow, what an interesting perspective and unique perspective for Mr. Kevin Ansley, state champion, 83 and 84 in number sense from Anson High School out in West Texas. I really enjoyed that conversation. And if you enjoy that content, please take a moment and hit the subscription button and the notification bell. Make sure you smash that like button and make a comment below. I really appreciate your support. I have many more great things planned for this channel. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Farewell.